Outside the Commodore Hotel in Beirut's busy Hamra Street, Noam Chomsky, his daughter Aviva, and his two friends get ready to head south, all the way to the Lebanese-Israeli border. The world-famous linguist and political commentator was in Beirut to give a lecture on America's foreign policy in the Middle East, and so decided to make a second visit to the south.
My wife and I were here 4 years ago. That was right before the war. The south, of course, had been pretty much destroyed, and I was impressed to see the level of reconstruction, very lively everywhere, a good deal of rebuilding, still some wreckage from the war. We went down to the border, went down to the village of Khiam, where the big prison had been destroyed. We'd visited it last time. Now it's rubble, but the town nearby had been mostly reconstructed.
After the long day trip, I got the chance to sit with Chomsky to talk about an area he knows well, the Middle East.
There's a basic law established by the High Court, and one of its principles is that Israel is the sovereign state of the Jewish people in Israel and the diaspora. So it's my state, but not the state even of the Palestinians who live there, let alone the refugees. It's the sovereign state of the Jewish people. That's the core legal principle on which the state is founded. You don't see anything wrong with the state that you're loyal to, you know.
Yeah.
That's unfortunately close to uniform. There is rising talk about a one state or binational solution, but you have to make a different distinction always between what you may call proposal and advocacy. Like, we can propose sitting here that everybody should live in peace. Okay, we proposed it. It's not an advocacy. If you want to advocate a one-state solution, you have to tell us how to get there. And I've only heard one suggestion, namely start with a two-state settlement and then move on as the communities, as the level of violence declines, communities make sort of natural relations, commercial, social, cultural, and so on. They'll probably become more closely integrated, and maybe it'll turn into some form of federalism or something else. For example, is happening in Europe, and does happen. But there's no other way to get to a binational state. So most of the talk about that, in my view, is pretty empty. In fact, I think it's tolerated, and it is tolerated, mostly because it undercuts a two-state settlement. Saying, okay, we give up on that, which means you give up on everything.
When you sit down and think about this within yourself, do you think there will be a solution?
In my view, the crucial issue is whether the United States will change its position. Now, that has happened in the past. There are cases, critical ones, where the U.S. supported a violent and brutal state against the whole world, and suddenly reversed position, and the situation was solved. Recent cases are South Africa, where the United States alone, the U.S. government, the White House alone, even against Congress and against the rest of the world, supported apartheid right up till 1988, and it was alone, but among major actors, even in violation of congressional resolutions. And it looked at us, white nationalism looked impregnable. You know, it was victorious everywhere. Later, the U.S. changed its position, and within a few years, it was over.
What do you think of the new alliance, Brazil, Turkey, and Iran?
Well, that's quite interesting. Brazil's probably the most important country in the South. You know, it's the former Third World. Turkey's the most important regional country. They're hard to ignore. And they made a deal with Iran that's pretty much along the lines of what the U.S. says it formally wants. So, but the United States wants to keep control of the situation. And they instantly responded, by ramming through a Security Council resolution to try to push aside the Brazilian-Turkish initiative. And they were able to get Russia and China to sign because it's almost vacuous. In fact, one of the conditions is that Russia is permitted to send anti-aircraft missiles to Iran, that's not in violation of the resolution. China is permitted to continue with its energy-related activities in Iran. It essentially says it's for show. You know, it's so that we can claim that we passed a resolution and we run everything, and those people like Turkey and Brazil will go back to your corner where you belong. It was pretty striking to see the way this was done.
How do you hope to spend, the rest of your time?
I'll keep doing what I've been doing for 60 years, as long as I can. Yeah.
At 81 years old, Chomsky's spirit is one that clearly remains forever young. Samia Badi, Gulf News.